I'm Karin. Welcome to my world. I thought that before I get too far into recording these YouTube videos, I should probably tell the story of how I came to view the world the way I do now, because that was not always the case. When I was growing up, I was perfectly linear. I believed we had one life. I did not even believe in a God. I was in an atheistic family, thankfully, because religion is not one of my favorite ways of the world. So no God, no afterlife, nothing before. We have this one life, and it's our responsibility to make the most of it and make the best of it. I did not see auras. I did not see ghosts. In fact, that was the one thing where a crack maybe was opening or a little light shining through, because I was absolutely terrified of ghosts. But I also did not believe they existed. So that was a bit illogical, and I never figured that one out. But I was scared of ghosts, but other than that, I didn't see anything. I didn't get any information. I didn't lie awake all night being scared of a glowing green globe in the corner. I did not see snakes on the floor. There was nothing. Absolutely clean nothing. I was completely linear. My whole world was linear, and that was it. And that was it until I was 40. I do remember that in my 20s there was the mother of a friend who was kind enough to spend an evening talking to me about past lives and how what you experienced there could influence your current life, and if you healed that, you would feel better this life. And I just thought and said, right, yeah, well, thank you for your time. And absolutely did not resonate with me until about 20 years later. But at the time, no, it was nothing. I thought it was funny. I've laughed at people talking about healings, thinking it was all a scam. Whatever I heard that had anything to do with something that was not completely linear, I thought was pretty amusing and fake. Well, there you go. Famous last words. So years later, I was around 40. I'm 56 now, so I'm trying to remember these things because this is a very long time ago. That would have been in 2003. At that time, my parents had died. They died a couple of years before, at the same time, within 24 hours. That was pretty rough. But that's another story. I was beginning to get curious. I had a friend, an older woman, who was a business astrologer and who had done my horoscope, my birth horoscope, and was doing some other horoscopes for me. And she had been trained by the Tibets, the Tibetan lamas, and had really fascinating views of the world that kind of spoke to me, but I didn't quite believe it. But I was beginning to get curious, so you might see that the door was beginning to crack open. What happened first was that I finally decided I want to know more about this. I want to know more about what's out there. I want to know more about what might be outside of this little box that I have been living in for 40 years. And I knew that if I started at the wrong point, I would run away screaming and never come back. So if I started with crunch velvets and crystal balls and singing bowls and whatever, of just, no, sorry guys, I'm out of here, this is too weird. So I had been in touch with a recruiter a couple of years before that, who I stayed in touch with loosely. He was an engineer by education, just like I was a chemical engineer. And he had mentioned somewhere along the way that his wife was psychic, which I thought was odd for an engineer to have a psychic wife. And he also talked about that he was doing astrology, which I thought was odd too for an engineer. But I thought, okay, he's the guy to ask, because this kind of straddles the world I'm in and the world I want to take a look at. So I asked him for recommendation for books, explain what I needed and what I absolutely did not need. And what he did was guide me to a couple of books by Raymond Moody, who has done an awful lot of research about near-death experience and people's remembrance of past lives. And he also guided me to the case of Shanti Devi, who was a woman living in India around the time of Gandhi, who was born remembering her previous life. Now, all of this past, previous, I will be back later to tweak that, but right now let's stick with the common phrases. And I read for about a week, and suddenly I just looked up from the book one and I said, oh, yeah, that's it. That's how it works. We have soul, we reincarnate, good, got it. Yep, that makes sense. So my turn there came in about a week. Around that time, I think it was either just before, just after, might have been just before, I had a session with the psychic, the wife, and she connected to my mom, who had passed away a couple of years before, and told me some things about my mother that no one else would know. She told me that she loved ballet, and she said that as if it would be a surprise for me, but actually I knew that her secret dream as a child was to be a ballet dancer. So things were happening around me, and that's where I left it for quite a few years. Well, 2 or 3 years. I left it at, yes, we have soul, we reincarnate, got it. I started a cafe, which was, looking back, was trying to escape from the corporate world because I did not thrive in the corporate world at all. I was sick all the time. I was not, having a regular day job was not a good thing for me and my health. So I started a cafe, which did not exactly improve my health, but that's another story. And with help from trying to navigate that and get out of it alive and without losing the house, I had help a lot from my astrologer friend, my business astrologer friend, and she started talking about awakening, that I would be able to attain awareness, complete awareness. And the way I interpreted it was that you would be able to step outside your ego. Your ego is your body. It's not just your focusing. I'm egoistic, but your ego is the shell that you're wearing this time. It's your brain, that's three-dimensional, it's your three-dimensional body. And if you're in the ego, if you're caught in the ego, you think that's all there is. And that is a very emotional place to be. There's a lot of drama there, the mind never stops, the brain keeps harping on about fear, worry, whatever. It's really hard to control. So if you are lucky, you are able to step out of that and connect to your soul that inhabits this body that you've chosen for this time. And once you kind of hook onto the soul and you get that connection, it becomes much easier to not get as caught up in the dramas, or at least to drop them faster rather than be stuck in them. And it becomes easier to not let your brain, 3D brain, control you, but to let more multidimensional ways help you in this life. And I read Eckhart Tolle's Being in the Now, which didn't quite do it for me. I didn't get the switch. I didn't get the, this is what it's all about. Now I feel it. But another book, I can't remember it. It was something about, I think, the diamond in my pocket or something. I was reading it. It's about enlightenment as well. I was reading it on a train, and suddenly it clicked. Suddenly I felt I was able to step outside my body, float above it, see it sitting there in the train, and just see that there was so much more. And that was a really important step for me, and I am eternally grateful for my dear friend Lena, the business astrologer, for insisting that I would be able to do that, because I don't think I would have thought of that myself. You never know, and some people don't make a conscious effort to make this switch. For some people it just happens. But for me, it was something I really wanted to, because I was absolutely not happy in my 3D ego, that is for certain. Now, there's lots more to tell, so I'm going to break this one now and continue with part 2. Thank you.